The agreement was simple. Caleb would find the weakness, and Audrey would provide the hammer. Caleb knew, through years of observation at the highest levels of the criminal and corporate worlds, that corporate giants like Simon Vance rarely protected their peripheries. They valued their stock price, their public-facing quarterly reports, and their glossy reputation far above the local regulations or environmental impact of a remote state. Their vulnerability was their balance sheet. Caleb turned his focus immediately, pulling away from the familiar, dusty geography of Ironwood Canyon to scrutinize the Argent Group's holdings in the neighboring territory, a major zinc refinery complex. Using old Shaw operational maps he'd meticulously acquired and digitized over years, cross-referencing them with decades of municipal planning data and environmental impact assessments, he found a critical, decades-old regulatory oversight. The refinery had a massive, decaying overflow pond for highly acidic industrial runoff, positioned dangerously close to the public water table of a major downriver population center. It was a ticking, slow-motion environmental disaster, waiting only for a catalyst. "They're saving pennies on maintenance, Audrey," Caleb explained, his voice low and precise, displaying magnified satellite imagery in Audrey's office. The images showed the thin, cracked containment wall separating the toxic pool from the riverbed. If this pond leaks, or if it is forced to leak, the contamination will be catastrophic. The initial regulatory fines alone could wipe out their entire quarterly earnings, regardless of the lawsuit. More importantly, the stock crash from the public outcry would be instantaneous and irreversible. Audrey didn't flinch at the ruthlessness of the plan. She merely leaned closer to the screen, her eyes calculating the financial trajectory of the disaster. It's elegant in its savagery. We frame it as a public safety issue, not a corporate raid. It hits his stock price, forcing him to divert all his capital and attention to mandatory environmental remediation. The Dry Creek lawsuit, his attempt to freeze us, dies of neglect. "It's a glass cannon," Caleb warned, his finger tapping the projected image of the pond. "It's all or nothing. We have to hit them hard enough that the recovery is impossible, that the media frenzy pushes them past the point of solvency, or Vance will come back swinging a blade instead of a lawsuit. He's too rich to break, but we can paralyze him." "I prefer blades," Audrey replied, a cold, predatory smile touching her lips. She finally looked up from the screen, meeting Caleb's gaze directly. "I handle the press and the regulators. I will manufacture the urgency. You handle the timing and the evidence. Once we move, there is no stepping back." Audrey Thorne went to work with the cold precision of a highly trained executioner, utilizing the legal and political network she and her father had carefully cultivated over 2 decades. Her attack vector was not the courts, which were too slow, but the media and the state regulatory bodies. The key was speed, ironclad evidence, and a compelling narrative presentation. She understood that in the information age, perception was control. Within 48 hours, a seemingly anonymous, highly detailed technical report provided by Caleb, who had meticulously scrubbed its origins clean and polished by Audrey's legal team for maximum impact, was leaked to a prominent, influential environmental watchdog group based out of the state capital. The report outlined the catastrophic structural failure risk posed by the Argent Group's zinc refinery overflow pond. The next morning, the report exploded onto the news cycle. The narrative was immediate and explosive. Reckless corporate pollution threatening the drinking water of thousands of innocent families downstream. The stock of the Argent group dipped immediately, shedding billions in market capitalization in the first hour of trading. Audrey's legal team filed an injunction to halt all operations at the zinc facility, citing imminent public danger and irrefutable evidence of gross negligence. The state regulatory bodies, suddenly under intense public and political scrutiny, found themselves in an untenable position. They had no choice but to comply. The refinery, Vance's second-largest operational asset, was immediately shuttered. Heavy federal fines were levied within 12 hours. Caleb watched the breathless financial news from his gilded cage. He saw the tickers flash red, felt the palpable fear in the market. He had won the battle, but the victory brought a hollow, acid sense of triumph. He had fought Elias's war with Elias's own tactics, weaponizing vulnerability against a corporate giant. The financial news confirmed the success. The Argent Group's stock was hemorrhaging value. Vance was cornered, his capital being frozen by remediation costs. The Dry Creek lawsuit instantly became the least of his concerns. Simon Vance was not merely a banker. He was a cage fighter in a tailored suit, a man who valued vengeance and the integrity of his fight more than a temporary market loss. He wouldn't hit the syndicate's balance sheet again. He would hit Caleb's weakness. It was late evening when the first chilling sign arrived. Caleb's secure satellite line, the only reliable, encrypted communication channel to his sister Lila's medical facility miles away, went dead with a hard, flat tone. Caleb immediately knew it was deliberate, not technical. Then a masked, encrypted email arrived from an unlisted server. The attachment was a high-resolution, recent photograph of Lila, resting peacefully in her hospital room, her face partially obscured by the ventilator tubing. It was not a threat of physical violence, but a devastating demonstration of access, a proof of concept. The accompanying text was simple, brutal, and chillingly specific. The chief operator must focus on his duties, not on family distractions. SV Caleb felt a visceral dread, colder than any he had ever felt facing down armed men in the canyon. He hadn't just attacked a corporation. He had attacked a man who valued vengeance over profit, who was willing to destroy lives to secure his pride. Vance had found his chain, the absolute core of his motivation. Caleb immediately drove the armored SUV to Ironwood Command, bypassing the outer layers of security with a furious, unbridled urgency that shocked the night crew. He burst into Audrey's panoramic glass office, finding her on a triumphant video call with a senior environmental regulator basking in the glow of their successful strike. "My sister," Caleb snarled, his voice a low, dangerous rumble, throwing his secure phone onto her sleek, dark desk. The image of Lila dominated the screen. Vance found her. "He cut the line, and he sent me this." Audrey's victory celebration ended instantly. She abruptly terminated the call, her attention snapping entirely to the image. She looked at the photograph, her composure finally cracking slightly, a genuine tremor of fear running through her. She recognized the chilling specificity of the attack. She knew exactly what it meant. Elias had not merely revealed a corporate secret. He had given Vance the file on Lila, the one thing Caleb had protected more fiercely than his own life. "He shouldn't know that name," Audrey said, her voice low and furious, sinking back into her chair. The patient's identity was secured. The medical administrator I appointed was the only person outside of my father and me who had that sensitive information. Elias, Caleb breathed, the realization hammering home the extent of the betrayal, turning his shock into cold, murderous rage. He didn't just give Vance the water rights. He gave him the kill switch. He gave him me. Caleb moved around the desk with the speed of a predator, grabbing the lapels of Audrey's expensive tailored jacket. The action was purely instinctual, a flicker of pure, unadulterated violence in his eyes that had been suppressed for 6 months. "This is on you," he hissed, his face inches from hers. "You promised me security. You swore you had Elias locked down, contained, silenced. Now my entire reason for breathing is exposed because your own goddamn father wants to spite you. This is your consequence." Audrey pulled free, her own eyes blazing, meeting his aggression with rigid, unwavering control. She refused to lose her temper, knowing that rage was a weakness in this moment. "If I had Elias locked down, Caleb, I wouldn't need you. He's testing me, testing the weakest link in my new armor, and right now, that's you. That's your dependency on this arrangement, your Achilles heel." She walked around the desk, leaning in close, forcing him to meet her gaze and absorb the brutal truth. "You think you're in a partnership, Caleb. You're in a survival pact. Vance is using Lila because he knows she's the gold handcuff that keeps you loyal to me. If you walk away right now, the funding stops, the syndicate collapses, and Vance steps in to clean up the mess and ruin your sister's life just for spite. You need me to protect that funding, now more than ever. You are trapped by your own love." Caleb slowly backed away, his hands dropping to his sides, the anger curdling into chilling, absolute realization. He was utterly trapped. His deep, abiding hatred for Audrey was the same essential fuel that now kept his sister alive and secure. He was bound to his jailer. "Vance is broken," Audrey stated, her gaze unwavering, returning to the tactical reality. "We destroyed $1 billion in value in 2 days. He is drowning in regulatory fines, and his stock is worthless. He will not recover quickly enough to fight us again. But you need to move Lila. Immediately. Use your own channels, not mine, the ones I don't know about. And then, Caleb, we shut Elias down for good. This ends now. No more leaks, no more proxies." Caleb picked up his phone, the high-resolution image of Lila still glowing on the screen. The counter-assault was a success. The Thorne Syndicate was richer, stronger, and more secure than ever. But Caleb was poorer than ever, realizing he was willingly wearing the shackles forged by his enemies, and that the only escape was deeper into the darkness.